All right, take it away, Teddy.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
We are thrilled to have you on here.
Thank you so much, Teddy. Such an honor, sir.
It's an honor and a pleasure to meet you both and to be here.
And just so you know, this is Teddy Richards, Aretha Franklin's son, a legend in music. He's worked with everyone under the sun, one of the most talented you can find. Teddy, I want to start out by talking about your Michigan roots, because I'm from West Michigan myself. You're on the other side of the state. Let's talk about that.
Well, I'm still a Michigan boy. I always have been, always will be. Up around your neck of the woods, I did mostly a lot of camping. I remember going up to your area to see bands like the Verve Pipe, which was a very popular Michigan band. And also a friend of mine, Michael Crittenden, I had a group, Troll for Trout. And these are both very big East Lansing, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapid bands. And I can remember, just being in awe, and always wanting to have a project like that while I was in college. So those days were quite inspirational. Verve Pipe, Michael Crittenden, I'm still friends with all these people, even to this day. So the inspiration is still there.
And what were some of the best music venues over there in Detroit? I remember Pine Knob pretty well, but there was a lot right in the city, right?
Yeah. Well, of course, that's my understanding now. That became DTE Energy Theater, and then I think it's back to Pine Knob again, if I'm not mistaken. Word on the street. Aside from that, let's see, what other venues did you have back then? Meadowbrook. Wow. What other big venues did you have? Silverdome.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's Ford Field, but
what a great memory. You've been so many places.
Well, I've been very blessed and very fortunate to have done quite a fair amount of travel, around the globe. And the key now is trying to keep it all up here.
Sure.
Yes, good point.
Yeah.
What about your college years? What about your college days at Michigan State? That must have been a journey.
Well, college was, meant for college. And the idea there, of course, I was able to sneak the music idea in. But, well, let me back up. Most of your listeners probably are not aware. I was raised with my dad, my stepmom, my two sisters. I grew up in Oak Park. And my father insisted that I go to school for the sake of an education. Not to go and socialize, not to play in bands, not to hoot and holler. So that was the idea of going to Michigan State. I came out of there, with God's graces. My undergrad was telecommunications. My master's was clinical psych. During that time, right around probably sophomore year, I started playing in groups, and I couldn't tell my parents, and I couldn't, it was flying under the radar at that point, and still trying to keep good grades and still trying to maintain, being in a band and learning. At that point, I was still a newbie to music. I had played, in high school, but not professionally. I hadn't played in any clubs. I hadn't really done anything of real value. By the time I had gotten involved, sophomore year at Michigan State, I joined a band that was primarily a cover band. We did start writing along the way, a group called the Preps. We did a lot of proms and a lot of Delta Tau Delta events and a lot of things of that nature. But it was a great learning ground for me. I learned how to conduct myself as a professional musician. I learned how to think in terms of not just being in a band, but being a member of a business conglomerate. Everybody, once a week, we sat and we talked about the show the week prior, the money that was made, where that money was to be dispersed and what was to be kept into an account. And we talked, of course, about our prime goal was to write a song and get into the recording studio, the Holy Grail, right?
Yes.
And so we did all those things and more. And it was really a wonderful blueprint for me that I still follow to this day. It really laid all the groundwork for me to understand that this is not just about being on stage, but there's two sides to this coin. And if you don't watch one side, the other one's going to get away from you, and vice versa. Yep. So
How long were you able to hide that from your folks?
I think by the time I was done with my my senior year, I think it was pretty much known, and my dad understood who I was long before I went off to school. He probably had an inkling that this is what I was going to do, and if I hadn't done it, I was doing it under the radar, and if I wasn't, it was going to happen any day. I think he had a pretty clear idea.
Oh boy, that sounds familiar. So
Yeah.
what became of this band?
Well, the Preps was no longer a group, of course. We disbanded probably around 1980, maybe 1979, somewhere in that. And it was time. The purpose of that band was fully understood by me. It was really kind of to help us all understand the template. It was never meant to be, this ongoing life dream. It served its purpose as a group. We're all still friends, which is something that a lot of bands can't say. A lot of folks, you come through the gauntlet and you come out on the other side, and you don't want to talk to these people anymore. We spend a lot of time laughing and organizing, great creative ideas and coming up with, great new renditions of cover tunes. And then we started writing our own things. And mind you, this is in the era of Rick Springfield and the early MTV days. The two INXS was hitting or just starting to hit. So a lot of our songs sounded like that stuff,
Yeah.
As time went on and as I began to mature as an artist, I started to take more of a new wave direction and not so much of this poppy MTV main fare kind of, thing. Our keyboard player, he took a full-time job as a manager at a bank. Everybody started to, we had run that, that performance in that band about as far as it was going to go.
Now, what kind of music was that, would you say, mostly? Just more like you just said, like the 80s sound?
80s MTV fare.
Yeah. So you did work with INXS, right? I mean,
and I still do. Yeah. Not as a band, but Andrew is one of my dearest friends in life. He and his wife were down here to visit my wife and I a few months ago, and they spent the night. We had a lovely day, lovely evening. And at this point, Andrew has his own career as a solo artist. And what it is more along the lines of Americana and sort of delving into country music again, a little bit, more modern country. So he had mentioned to us the night earlier that he was on his way from where we live to Nashville to perform at the Bluebird. And I said, "Oh, Cora, that's great. Well, hope that the date goes well for you." And we wished them well the next day and sent them off on their way to Nashville. And as soon as they got down the road, my wife and I looked at each other. We said, "Okay, get to the Bluebird site. Let's see if we can get some tickets." And so, 2 weeks later, we were there in the parking lot when they arrived, and we waited until he got to his dressing room, and we went and sat down, and we were front row center. So when he walked out on the stage, hi.
Awesome.
Unreal.
Yeah, it was really wonderful for us. My wife and I really got a kick out of it, as did they.
Wow. I saw pictures of you playing a lot of acoustic guitar. Well, and at the mic, I mean, do you mostly play the acoustic?
Well, I did for the last 5 or 6 years, yes. And that was primarily because, again, Andrew Farris, when we began writing, we've got 12, I think maybe 12 or 15 tunes that we wrote and recorded, unheard by most people at this point. But as we sat and would write these songs, he'd always pull out the acoustic. At that point, I was a bar star, playing more like sloppy Eddie Van Halen sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a foreign instrument to me at the time. But I learned very quickly the value of the acoustic guitar for melody's sake and for figuring out what the heck you're doing in the song. And because of that inspiration, it has now become my number one go-to instrument. And I spent 5 or 6 years working as an entertainer throughout Southwest Florida, playing acoustic guitar and doing a solo gig like that. So I got very comfortable. It became an extension of my left and right arm.
I think most young guitar players do that. They progress toward the acoustic guitar eventually and find just the elegance, you know, of the simple, you know, acoustic guitar is so beautiful.
Yeah, and it's a different, you know, when you pick up the acoustic guitar, you write differently because you hear things differently, and it's a purer instrument in many ways, or at least to me, that's the way that I saw it. And it wasn't cumbersome, and it didn't get in the way. Playing the electric guitar is wonderful, and it has its place.
A bit limited.
Yeah, well, for me.
For me,
you know, I'm sure there's someone else that would disagree and go, "Oh no, the electric is really where it's at." And I do this, and I can do that, and I write, and I think about this, and I do this. So to each his own. But for me, the acoustic really seemed to be my bedrock.
I can totally relate to that. I did the same thing. I did a lot of rock shows, metal even back in the day, and everything now I'm looking at the oldest songs I can find, you know. And the cool thing about an acoustic guitar is you can take that song and change it into anything, or any genre, I should say, or you can take any genre and turn it into acoustic version. And
nicely said. You've got it. You've hit the nail on the head.
It's just so beautiful. Yeah. So nice. Did you play your acoustic guitar mostly for that 30 years that you toured with?
No, most of that was done with this guitar right here. Let me see if I can grab this from behind.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The bulk of
a nice Fender.
Yeah, it was done on a lot of that 30-year span out on the road was done with this.
Wow, nice, beautiful Fender.
Yeah.
Oh my, Stratocaster.
Yeah. I bought it because, and again, happy accidents do happen. I have over there, I will not pick it up, but I have a Les Paul, 78 Paul, and I'd fractured the neck on the Paul. I'd taken it in for a repair, found myself in Illinois, and the neck was beginning to fracture again at sound check on an Aretha show. There was no way that I could do the performance that night with the guitar. I jumped in a cab with my good friend Richard Gibbs. We went to the first guitar center that we could get to. This was there. It looked good. I'm like, okay, I'll take that one right there. Whoa. And I didn't even bother setting it up. I went right out on stage that night, you know, just without
hoping it would stay in tune.
Yep, and it did. It did everything and more.
Awesome. That's a good story.
Yeah.
Fractured the neck. But you must have loved that Les Paul. There it is.
This is the one with the fracture.
Oh my goodness, look at that. Red guitar. Jeez, look at that.
That's great.
Yeah. I don't know if you'll be able to see the work. I've had it repaired, of course, since then, but it's never been back on stage since the
yeah, look at that right there. Split right down the middle.
Yep.
I've never seen that happen.
Real.
It's amazing what will happen to these things if you don't take care of them, right?
You know, it must have got a lot of use to actually split.
Well, you know, the wonderful thing that I also found that I preferred the sound from the Strat. I preferred it for the live show. I then started using it in all the recordings that I was doing. it just became a sound that was more along the lines of sonically what I wanted to hear from the guitar. The Paul was great, and I'd played Pauls for so many years. I've been playing Pauls since Peter Frampton was playing, Pauls. That's how far back that went, and it's a very full sound, and it's a wonderful guitar, but there's something about a Strat, it's a thinner thing, but it's got punch, like, I've never heard that kind of a punch come from.
Oh, Fender knows what they're doing.
Yep, indeed.
So what do you think, Mark? I don't want to take up all the time. I could
talk
guitar with him all night.
Yeah. No, what do you like better, the intimate settings or a large festival?
They both, I'm pretty comfortable with both situations. When you are in your zone, it really doesn't matter.
Sure.
What's in front of you. But the funny thing about it is, once you have stepped away from it, say for instance, I've stepped away from performing live for a while now. I have a wife, I have my daughter. We're RVing and golfing more than anything else. And then I've just started to really work my studio again over the last couple of months. So the next time I find myself in front of an audience, it'll be a little, I'll be a bit nervous, and there's that excitement and you're a bit nervous. But once you do that a handful of times, I'm comfortable at that point to do it in front of a smaller audience or a larger one.
Yeah.
We, at one given point in time, we used to do here at my home, we had a couple of little performances out by the pool. We'd invite a handful of friends over and play, 5 or 6 songs and relax a little bit, and also at campfires. There's always an acoustic guitar, and there's always some point where everybody's had, a couple of beers and wants to hear a couple of tunes. And that can be a little nervous, a little nerve wracking when you're not used to doing it. But once you're back in your zone, you're like, hey, this is not a problem. I'm happy to do it. And you can think clearly through it and give it all the pizzazz that it deserves.
Sure. And you played with a lot of artists. You remind me a lot of, I don't know if you played with them, Leland Sklar.
No.
He is the guitarist for James Taylor, and he was for Phil Collins. But he's played with everyone under the sun.
Except for me.
Yeah, except for the legend himself. Exactly.
And vice versa.
Sure.
So of all the shows you did,
yeah,
of all the shows you did, what's the one you just said, man, that was like the biggest thing I've ever seen? I mean, because if anyone has seen something big, it's you.
Sure.
Well, I would have to say the performance when Nelson Mandela was still in prison, and I had gone to England to perform in the first Mandela Day. I went over to play guitar for. What they did was they put together for my part, the portion that I participated in was with Al Green. Ashford and Simpson, Natalie Cole.
Oh, goodness.
Who am I forgetting?
Mick
Joe Cocker,
yeah.
Mick Hucknall from Simply Red, right. And rather than having all of these stellar artists bring their bands in and have them do 2 songs or 3 songs a piece, it made more sense to put together one core band, and we could learn all their material and now represent, for them. And walking out on that stage was probably one of the most memorable things that I can ever think of. There's going to be very little performance-wise that will ever top that.
Wow. That's like history. Wow.
Yeah. Walking out there, and there's we're at Wembley Stadium, which is filled to capacity. You've got global television, you had global radio, of course you have MTV. So the entire planet is just really fixed on that stage. And to be a part of that was really something just amazing. And it was almost surreal. You couldn't believe that this is taking place and you're a part of it.
Wow.
So I can very clearly remember just, being overwhelmed before going on and saying, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? I really don't think that I'm going to be able to do this now, but it's too late to back out. You're on stage in 10 minutes kind of thing. And I just went into a nice little corner and I had a nice prayer. And I said, Lord, please be with me, carry me through this. And then I simultaneously just understood in my own being, if I can get through this, there's very little that will ever make me nervous performance wise after that. And I still believe that, anything I take on now, I'm like, hey, this is a great project, but it's not Wembley. So,
yeah. And how were you selected for that?
Well, I was selected because H.B. Barnum, the Aretha band director and conductor, called me and said, hey, I've got this wonderful opportunity. I need to know very quickly, though, if you can move on it, because we have to fill the spot for the guitar player. And he told me exactly what it was. And I said, great, send the paperwork and I'm on board. Again, I didn't think it through, because if I had time to think about it, I would have talked myself out of it. I would have talked myself out of it. So,
but it was that a nervousness that made it so great in the end, isn't it? It's not worth doing if it's not hard,
Those kinds of events, though, it's unbelievable. You've got, all of the great talent, from the US and also from UK and from Australia and, from all points north. And everyone's there for one cause, which is to try at that time to raise the initial awareness that Nelson Mandela, he's been in jail for 28, 29 years at that point. And for everyone to come together for that cause, it was pretty mind-blowing.
Definitely one of the top musical events in history, I would say.
Sure.
Amazing.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that would be very tough to beat. So currently, I think you're working on a release called Solitaire.
Yeah, and I've taken my time with it. What we ended up doing, I'm signed with a record label out of Germany. Skip Records is the label that I'm signed to. And I made sure that my contract said that I will deliver the second and third and fourth records. If they are to actually take place, I will do them more on my dime and on my speed and on my volition. So I've taken my time with it. Think of it like if you were making a meal. You don't want to prepare something and have it half ready and pull it out of the oven and go, okay, everybody enjoy, because it's not going to taste right. And everybody's going to go, oh, this is great.
I really like it.
Ted, yeah. So music, and I do draw that analogy, between food and music quite a bit. But it's understood. It's understood. So I wanted to make sure that this record is, beyond my expectations, and I want to deliver everything that I can. And this has been a journey like no other, putting this second record together, and doing it, working with a lot of folks. Andrew Farris is on the album. My daughter is on the album. We're bringing in some bigger names, and then we're also bringing in people that I know from Michigan and folks that are not so notable, but equally as talented. So it's this kind of a record that brings together a lot of different people and friends and folks that you've been in the trenches with, and you're happy to work with again, and they're happy to work with you. So, it's a perfect record. It's a perfect record so far.
Sure.
And you chose them because they let you take your time and all that. And
they are also aware that in order to make a good record, you don't rush through it. I mean, everyone that I'm working with understands that, because we've all been there at one time or another. Come on. Hurry up. All right, here, it's done. Oh, God, that doesn't sound right. and then you kick yourself every time you hear it, to the point where you don't even want to hear it sometimes. You're like, oh, I can't, that's the worst mix. Oh, God, I was trying to finish the lyrics, and if I had just had, more relaxation time, I could have thought of a better lyric there, or wow, this other idea conceptually would have worked a lot better. So we've all been there, and everybody gets it, and they're happy to go, great. When you're ready, we'll cut, and just give me a call and I'll lay the tracks down and we'll move on from there.
That's so awesome. And you're such a nice, kind soul and stuff. In the music industry, sometimes it just seems so dog eat dog and just dark, and it's great to see so much positive come out of you, and it's just really, really inspiring.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. I'm reminded, this is more humorous than anything else. There's a quote. I don't know if I can find this thing as quickly as I would like to. There's a quote from, oh my goodness, what is the author's name? Let me keep thinking in the background while we're talking.
Sure.
I'll come up with his name for you, and I'll come up with the quote for you. And it's funny. It'll be quite humorous against what you just said there, Brian.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, I'll keep working on that. I'll get that together while we're here.
Sure. What about your Think Radio? Talk about that.
Think Radio. This is a wonderful platform that I had thought about Think Radio for quite a while, for many years, and through I had different incarnations in my mind what I wanted Think
Radio. Can you
Radio.
tell us first, what is Think Radio? We were actually talking. I'm like, that sounds familiar, but I'm not sure quite exactly what that platform is about.
Well, it's about good music. It's about songs that were inspirational for me, things that as I was growing up. And
so Think Radio is your platform.
Yeah, this is my platform.
Oh,
yes.
Sorry. I thought it was another platform you joined. Okay.
No.
Sorry about that. Yeah, go on.
And Think Radio, well, let's figure out the first incarnation of Think Radio was supposed to be called Globe Trek Radio, was the idea I had conceptually. Globe Trek Radio, which was the abbreviation for GTR, which is the abbreviation for guitar. And the idea at that time, I was doing a handful of Borders books and music performances, throughout we had Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. I would come back into Michigan after doing, 8 or 9 of those, and then head straight north. I'd go to Grand Rapids. I'd go to Traverse City. I'd go to Petoskey and perform all the way up, and then golf all the way up as well. And then,
oh yeah, okay,
yeah,
cool. That was bookstore performances must have been great.
Well, it was a wonderful thing. It was an hour performance. I'd have usually about 3 or 4 hours of a drive in between. I'd try to get there a day early, and I'd have a tea time booked so I could get on the course.
That's great.
And, enjoy that. And I'm in my camper, so I could set the rig up after golf and then have the following day, which was the performance. And sometimes I'd have the day after just to stay and enjoy wherever I was and then move on from there. So I started doing this, and I got really good at it. And I had this idea about GTR, Globe Trek Radio. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be great? And there was no technology at the time. There was no Zoom. I didn't have a portable audio interface. I didn't have any of the components that we all have now to do what we do. So portable, and just to make it, world-class audio. But I had the idea, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice? I could get into town, play 9 holes, find something or someone of interest in that town that I was staying in, interview them, get a little piece of video footage, to go along with it. And there was no podcast then, but I was like, record the thing and somehow get it out there. And then what I found shortly thereafter, I found one of the original podcasts was called American RVer. And they were doing the same thing that I had conceptualized, only they had this thing called a podcast in like 19, this was like what, 1990. Oh goodness, maybe no, it's probably 2005, I guess, 2005, 2006. And I said, wow, these guys got the same idea and they're RVing across the country. They're interviewing interesting people. And what's a podcast? What is a podcast? Right.
Especially
trying to figure this out. Right. I was like,
you'd already done it.
In my mind, anyhow.
Oh.
So that was the original incarnation. And I was never able to make it happen because you get distracted with life,
Mm-hmm.
Life is what happens while you're making plans. And I didn't lose the idea though. I kept the idea. And when the opportunity arose again, technology was a little more in place. And I said, you know what? Let me take that GTR idea and look at it again. I'm a few miles further down the road in life and in music and in experience. And what can we do with this? And I said, you know what? For starters, there's several things I can do, but technology will allow me right away to launch the radio station portion of it and conduct interviews, upload them. If I want video footage, I can't do it from there because it's audio only. It's radio station. But it seems so like a no-brainer. And I said, okay, let's pull the trigger on this. What do I know about starting a radio station? Very little to nothing. But do I have the passion for music? And have I not lived my entire life figuring out things as I go? I'm good at that. So I figured, okay, I can trial and error through this. And, within a few months, I should have a pretty good, solid idea of what I'm doing. And I won't be too embarrassed of what I've done, prior. So we launched the station, and I'm very thankful that we did. It's still growing. Think Radio. We're available on Live 365. We're available on TuneIn. And most recently, we've been added to iHeartRadio.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. I love iHeart. Yeah. Wow. Well, you can't stop good content. You're just going to keep growing and growing, I'm sure.
Sure.
It's been a great journey. And it's open format. So I'm playing soul. I'm playing ska. I'm playing stuff out of the UK. I'm playing Nat King Cole. These are all things that influenced me and inspired me. So, and it's all good material. So as a program director for the station, I'm able to make sure that there's quality in everything that goes up there. And it's also making a statement. It's kind of part of my journey that helped inspire me to ever pick up a guitar and even think about being a musician. So we do that Monday through Saturday. On Sundays, we have Sunday worship from 9 until 5. And again, it's open format. So you're getting gospel. You're getting, turn of the century stuff. We have sermons from the church that my wife and I belong to. We mix it up real good. We mix it up real good.
Awesome. That is so amazing.
That's great. You're really so accomplished. It's so wonderful talking to you. You're such a great humanitarian. I think Brian would agree.
Honestly, we saw your little picture at the beginning. It had some Christian crosses. I'm like, oh, we're going to get along real good.
Oh, that's our Facebook.
Oh, that's a great picture. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's awesome.
What are some of the artists that you like from the UK? Because I've interviewed a handful of mostly 80s artists.
Well, I did work with Gary Clark. He had a band called Danny Wilson.
Okay.
They were not a big band here at all.
I know that group. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary's Prayer, right?
Exactly. Wow. I'm impressed.
And Jesus, I forget the name of the song, but Jesus on the radio. That
yeah. Wow. I'm impressed.
Summer of Love or something. Second Summer of Love, right?
the last Summer of Love. What is it?
Yeah, I think it is. Maybe
I know the
Last
song you're
Summer of
talking
Love.
about. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you're familiar with Gary. If he hears this interview, that will make him smile. That will make him smile. So of course, there's that stuff. What else came out of the UK that was impressive? What's the group that does? Give me 1 second here.
Sure.
Sometimes my memory starts to fail me around this time.
Oh no,
Wait.
You're doing great.
They had an album, Mezzanine. Wow, give me 1 second here. I'll come.
Sure.
Wow. Teardrop was a song that I liked from them originally. What's the group? Massive Attack.
Okay.
Massive Attack. That's all good stuff. Of course, you know, if you go back to the 80s, there was from the States, but who became accomplished there. You had Terrence Trent D'Arby, who's now called.
Oh, sure. Okay.
What is it? Sananda Matea is his current name. All that was very influential for me, you know, as coming through East Lansing. You had all of the English stuff, the English beat.
Oh, I saw him in concert at a festival. It was unreal in Chicago.
Wow.
You know, you had
I remember them. Definitely.
You had Madness.
Yeah. Sure.
Had,
okay.
You know,
Madness. Wow, that's right.
Yeah, One Step Beyond.
Oh man.
All of that stuff, you know, it really took hold with me.
Sure.
I figured Squeeze.
Oh yeah. Paul Carrack, yeah.
Coffee in bed.
Right. One of the greatest singers to come out of UK.
That band has so many good songs.
Him and Paul Young were both good singers out of UK.
Oh, Paul Young too. Yeah. Every Time You Go Away, Oh Girl. Oh.
Right. My favorite out of that batch would have probably been XTC, which was probably
Making Plans for Nigel, King for a Day.
This guy is really on top of it over here.
Towers of London. Sure.
Yeah. Well, you're listening faster than I could.
Man, he's good.
I used to study the Billboard books, and it was the top 20 of US and UK.
Yeah.
So that's how I, discovered the UK artists. And luckily, I grew up I'm 41, so I grew up in an area where you could actually get albums. You know what I mean?
Vinyl albums. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, let's see.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, this is great.
We're only making plans for Nigel. We only want what's best for him. Yeah. And if young Nigel says he's happy, he must be happy. He must be happy. He must be happy in his world.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Bravo. That is great.
Thank you. That was great.
Boy, that's good stuff, isn't it?
Sure.
Oh, gosh, that brings back memories. High school. I graduated in 86.
Wow. 86. In 1986. What was going on musically in 86 now? Bring me to the year 86. What were you listening to?
Hair metal bands was going on in my life.
Okay.
The whole heavy metal to kind of a glamorous looking metal.
Yeah.
And then, that's before like Metallica and stuff. So you were looking at like Kiss kind of inspired a bunch of people, I think, like Motley Crue and a bunch of makeup hairspray bands, and that's what my bands look like. A lot like that. A lot of glamorous.
New York Dolls probably had something to do with that inspiration.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Of course, I was always in California or Arizona. I would have loved to seen that though.
Well, you mentioned California. That was also a big impact on me. Was K-Rock out of
LA.
Yep.
Yeah.
At the point when all of the new wave music. And there was also bands that were from California that were regional, that had never been heard, on the East Coast or in the Midwest. Like, for instance, you had Danny Elfman and Oingo Boingo.
Sure. Oh yeah.
All of that stuff was that was an LA thing, and it wasn't really being exported all that far. That was a West Coast thing. The Surf Punks.
Sure.
Naughty Sweeties. What's the other group? My wife and I don't force her, but she tolerates, as we travel, listening to all these,
Sure.
these songs and bands that only I know and that would enjoy violently. Who else did you have there? You had Missing Persons.
Sure.
They came
What
out.
are words for? Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Of
Walking
course.
in LA.
Yep. All that stuff. That was all during that time frame. That was where my
And
I
one
got
of
hooked
them
into
was
that.
Richard Blade, right? He was one of the DJs, right?
Yes,
'Cause
Richard
I've met
Blade
him
was a
before.
DJ. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. On K Rock. Wow. This guy, you have an incredible
Well, I
memory.
met him at one of the ABC concerts. Martin Fry, ABC.
Yes.
That was
yes,
another
yes.
group that was just
Yep.
unreal,
The Look of Love, right?
Yeah, The Look of Love, Be Near
man.
Me, How to Be a Millionaire.
Oh, that was the one right there. That How to Be a Millionaire. There was a dance version of that. Pound, dollar, pound,
Yeah,
dollar,
exactly.
pound, dollar, pound, pound. Oh boy, that was hitting. That was really,
Sure.
that was on fire at the dance club, man, when that
Mhm.
came on. But anyhow, yeah, all that, so obviously we're all from the same tribe here musically. And it's all good stuff. That's all. And for me, it was always a matter of trying to find a way to communicate it through the guitar and having a good band that I could, I remember opening up a show with Joe Jackson songs and
Wow.
people,
Yeah.
but I was playing to like a college audience that wasn't a new wave college audience, and everybody kind of looking bewildered and not getting it. And then I can remember being in Cross Village, Michigan, and opening up with a Joe Jackson song, Look Sharp.
Oh, yeah,
And
you gotta look sharp. Yeah.
Sharp, right. And some real super drunk guy going, I want to hear respect, MF. That's not what we're doing here, buddy. We're not rolling like that today. We're not rolling like that. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But, again, trials and tribulations on the road and figuring out where you belong and where you don't.
Sure.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that you worked with too was George Benson, right?
Well, I didn't work with George.
Okay.
We were on a TV show. We did a show that he was a part of. And I remember sitting and talking with him, from one guitarist to another.
Sure.
But I mean, that's like trying to talk to Wes Montgomery. It's just larger than life. You can't
Sure.
even conceptualize what he understands about the guitar, So for me to sit and talk with him, you're more in awe that it's George Benson.
Sure.
And you're trying to take all these pearls of wisdom, and then you don't have much to offer back other than, well, I figured out not to play on 10 all the time. I tune it down to 8 a little bit, and I figured out, it sounds so
Sure.
remedial, when you talk back to him.
Yeah.
You don't have much to offer at that point in time. But that's, crossing paths with him is, again, that's Bad Benson,
Sure. Well, look at even his music videos are still timeless. Give Me the Night is unreal,
Oh,
Great singer, incredible guitarist, he's still performing, most folks don't realize that he's still out there doing it.
Sure.
He's still out there
I saw
doing
that.
it.
bless his heart. Wow.
Yeah, God bless him.
Yeah.
God bless him.
Now, were you someone who was a fan of the music video era? Because some of these artists, at least in the UK that I've interviewed, they're like, we wasted that amount of money on this music video when you look back at it, if you know what I mean.
That didn't affect me as much because I had no budget and I had no money. So it was wonderful to watch all of these things going on.
Sure.
Oh,
But I knew that I couldn't participate. It hadn't occurred to me that you could do things like buy your own camera and produce your own video, as a lot of bands, a lot of DIY bands ended up doing as time went by. But for me, it was just a matter of enjoying. It was like going to the movies or something. And again, most of these early videos were small, like vignettes. They were very much like movies. There was a concept from the beginning of the song to the end, and a lot of theater and a lot of drama, as a song worked its way from one part to the other. So for me, it was entertaining.
And what was so great about looking back on these music videos is some were genius and some of them were just horrible. Like I remember, I don't know if you've ever seen it, Cannonball by Supertramp. It looks like the guy with the Planet of the Apes guy, just like a cannonball. Dun, 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 dun. And then they have a Planet of the Apes guy and you're like, what did you do?
but these early videos, the low quality even made them great,
Sure.
because no one knew at the time, until like Michael Jackson just really started, and then we're like, whoa, this is going to be like really big one day.
A lot of it, you had would-be producers going, okay, I've got this great idea. Let's get Bauhaus over here and we're going to do this cool, spooky, ethereal thing. And, we're going to have, what was the big tune then? Bela Lugosi's dead. And we're going to, so, and some of it you could actually look at it and go, well, it looks a little ridiculous, but there's some cool concept in here. So you'd give it some credential a little bit.
Sure.
Did you ever do any video where you had to like kind of act a little bit or kind of pretend to play or anything like that? Or
no, we did, way back when I was in the preps, we came down to the Detroit area to do a demo. What was the show with Ed McMahon? What was that thing?
Not Star Search, was it?
Star Search, yes.
Okay.
And we came down to Detroit and they filmed us doing an original tune. And as far as I know, that's the only footage of me recorded on any video that I can think of off the top of my head. Not so much video. I'd love to. I've actually spoken with, we have very good friends that, Scott Allman and his wife, they own a video production company. We've been talking with them a bit about doing some video for this new batch of music that I'm putting together. And I could work very easily and seamlessly with Scott. We're both guitar players. We're both from East Lansing. He was in a band called the Flying Tigers way back in the day. And I could work with him very easily and come out with a fantastic product. So I'm probably at the point where I will take the plunge, for at least a song or two, and just get comfortable with the idea of that camera being in front of me and making sure that I can add whatever I can add to that and making sure that it visually comes out to whatever concept I have in my mind, and working with somebody like Scott would be fantastic. Sure. Yeah.
You already have a theme like to your project or?
Well, we've finished 2 or 3 songs so far, and each song has really got its own personality and its own character, and it's not too difficult to listen and kind of, visualize what you can see in your mind's eye. So, I'll throw my 2 cents in there. Cool. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt.
Now you've done some commercials also, right?
Yes, I on my own volition, I decided, I don't even remember how I decided to start working with Folgers, but I did. I don't know. I can't, to this day, I don't know what that moment was when I said, okay, Folgers coffee. But somehow I ended up putting together one of the pieces. I'm pretty proud of this thing. It's a commercial, for goodness sake. but for me, it's bigger than a commercial. I was able to produce it in a way that I approached it like any other piece of music.
Sure.
I didn't approach it like a commercial or like a 60-second spot. I produced it and thought of it in terms of, this is a song. It's just a very short one.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, what about, I saw on your YouTube that they played one of your songs during the NFL on CBS, the halftime, when they're showing the scores.
Yes, my good friend and business partner Chris Lawrenson, Urban Chris is his stage name. He had done a lot of work with Eminem. He had worked with Eminem as an engineer and also as a producer in the early days of Eminem's career. He and I think we ended up having 4 or 5 pieces of music used on CBS Sunday Football. Again,
Coolness.
when you're operating in this little world of boutique, find cool projects, sometimes these things just fall in our laps. We got a call from a friend of mine in New York, and he says, "Hey, would you like to do some stuff for CBS Football?" Of course. Of course we would. I had already worked with him, with Michael Kissel. I had done 3 or 4 demos at his studio. He had a studio in New York in the Brill building, which is on Broadway. It's a pretty famous building where a lot from Tin Pan Alley all the way through to, probably the mid 70s. A lot of artists were recording and writing and doing things within this building. And so it was very kind of Michael to just, "Hey, Ted, I thought about you. Would you like to throw some things together for music beds for CBS Sunday Football Sprint halftime report?" Was that yeah.
So they just say, "We need a piece of music about this long for this intro," or
it was for like the halftime scores, right?
I was kind of given some parameters that they wanted me to work within. I didn't understand parameters at that time. I kind of figured, okay, you want me to do what? All right. Okay. I got it.
Sure.
And then I would go back to the studio and do what I felt like doing, or what I thought was better than what was suggested. And fortunately, we were able to accomplish, 4 or 5 of them.
Nice.
But I found that when you're operating in that kind of an arena, I can remember very clearly the producer saying, "Well, there's this movie, The Road to Perdition, and we'd like this song that's got to have this kind of feel." And it was for a golfer who had glioblastoma. He had the surgery and had come out of the surgery and was now starting to golf again. And they had an idea. They wanted this Road to Perdition type of song, this solemn piano thing. And I said, "Okay, that's great." What I ended up delivering to them, I felt was even better than Road to Perdition thing. But we didn't see eye to eye on that one. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah.
We've seen the industry has so many angles.
Indeed. And that's why you have to keep an eye on your own angle as well. And my angle is usually pretty simple, and again, I'm older now, and I'm more understanding and insightful of what it is that I'd like to do, or things that are not for me. So sometimes, you might find that somebody's suggesting something and you go, "That sounds fantastic, but it's not for me." That's something that you're better to find another individual to fill that bill. So you live, you learn.
Yeah.
You live, you learn. I really like Natalie Merchant, and you worked with, who is that? Gabriel Gordon.
Gabe, yeah, he just got married. He got married a couple of weeks ago. I just saw on Facebook.
Congratulations.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And also, I love
Gabe and I have an incredible song. It's going to be on the next album here. Too Close to the Fire is the title of that one. He and I and my other longtime writing partner, Dan Stucco, the three of us wrote that in New York. That'll be on the next record. And Gabe's a great guitar player. He's a fantastic guy. You know, he comes from good stock.
That's awesome. Oh gosh, there's just so many people. What else that I wanted to ask you about? Did you work with Lenny Kravitz?
Yeah, I was when I first began writing. That was my first person that I was able to coordinate and start funneling songs to. Yeah, again, because we're both, you know, of color, and we're both at the time, you know, I was doing more rock.
Yeah, I loved his rock style. Yeah.
So it was an easy fit for he and I, and it was kind of interesting when I first became clear to me that I should be trying to funnel tunes over to him. We were in New Orleans doing the Aretha show, and we had done the Jazz Fest maybe 2 or 3 years prior, and we're going back for like this 3rd year now. The Jazz Fest, which is a big ordeal. It's not anything like Mardi Gras or that madness, but it's an organized festival with a lot of talent that comes through there in a matter of a week. And of course, there's good food and good music, you know. So when I got to town, I maybe had 3 or 4 friends that lived in the area, and I had a couple of friends that were from Michigan that would go down every year. And every place that I went to meet with friends, everybody would go, you know what? Lenny Kravitz is in town. We see him riding his motorcycle around all the time. You should meet with Lenny. And you guys, I think there's something between you. You guys, you should meet Lenny. Or then you'd have other people. Do you know Lenny Kravitz? You know, and I got this all the time. You know, I was there for 3 or 4 days prior to working. And I said, well, no, I don't know him, and it'd be great to meet him. I know his music. And so here it is, the day of the show, the Aretha performance. And this is outside, and it's hot, and it's summer, and it's humid, and there's bugs flying all over the place, and it's just about to be sunset. And you got this wonderful audience, and they want to hear good music. And the band was tight and ready. Everything was in order. And we're just doing a very quick sound check. And we're going to do this for about 5 or 10 minutes. And then we have about a half an hour before the actual performance starts. So we're doing the sound check, and I look to my left, and about 300 yards away, I see this limousine and 2 or 3 other cars parking way over here where no other cars were being parked. And I said to myself, wouldn't it be interesting if that was this Lenny Kravitz that I keep hearing about, Lenny? You know, and it's just far enough away where you can't really make out who's in the car or anything. And then you see the door open, and I said, wouldn't that be something if that's Lenny getting out? So
you see hair in sunglasses.
You got this parade of about 10 people, and as they start making their way towards the stage, I go, wow, that is Lenny Kravitz. That is him. That's him. Wow. And they're walking, you know, and I guess it's about 300 yards they got to walk. And I said to myself, now, wouldn't it be something if he came and sat right up here in the front row or something like that? And then I saw them being ushered over, not to the front row, but right up onto the side of the stage. And I said, wow, he's right there. He's 10, 15 feet away from me. I said, well, as soon as I can finish this sound check, I'll go over, I'll introduce myself, and we'll make the contact.
Oh, boy.
And that's what I did.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. Wow. I was invited that evening. He was producing, oh my goodness, what was the artist's name? Wow. She was involved with honey, what's the pirate, the one that just had the Johnny Depp. This is Johnny Depp's old flame. What is her name? I almost said it. Vanessa Paradis was her name.
Oh yeah, okay, I know the music.
So he was working on her record. I was invited to come down after the show, and right away I sat down in the co-producer's chair, and I said, "Do you mind, Vanessa? Try this harmony instead of that harmony, and try this melody instead of that melody." And I realized very quickly I was kind of stepping outside of what I should have been doing, as I was a guest and not the hired co-producer. So I thanked him, and I got up and decided not to spoil a good thing.
Unreal.
Yep.
Who else have you met that's really honored you? You know, it doesn't have to be a musician, just anybody. Just a good memory of someone who's really just, you know, been an honor to me.
My wife.
Good answer.
I love it. That is
answer.
great. I love it.
There's just so many people on this list. I don't even know
Sure.
what to talk about.
What about Florida? How long have you lived in Florida, and what is it like?
Yeah.
What's it like? Well, Florida is hot. You know, it's summer here, and it's hot and it's humid. And
Why'd you choose Florida?
I chose Florida because my father and my stepmom, they had their winter home here. They were what you call snowbirds.
We're from Phoenix. We know snowbirds.
You know snowbirds, right?
Oh, yes.
Sure.
And so I would come here to visit them when I had time off. This is when I was, 17, 18 years old, 19 years old. And I would come down here to visit. And at that time, Florida's pretty boring, especially then, the little town that we're in. There were no dance clubs. There was no music scene. There was not much of anything, honestly. It was like Hooterville, Hooterville with a couple of lakes. But I would come down here to visit my parents. And as time went by, it became more a matter of enjoying them as I got older. And I realized that this was really quality time that I could spend down here with them. And as more time went by, I realized, I'm getting older and I'm starting to see that the town was growing, and I started to appreciate things that I didn't enjoy when I first came down here. But I was starting to mature to the point where I said, oh, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of value here. And long story short, at one given time, my wife and I, we had a bid for my parents' home, which is 10 doors away from where we live right now.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So as we have our morning walk after our coffee, we walk by the house, and it's some other very nice people from Michigan that own that house now.
Wow. Yeah.
And that are literally one connection away from me. They know some friends of mine from Michigan State, and it was just kind of a crazy, weird connection. So they own the house now where my parents used to live, and we're 10 doors down the road, and we keep an eye on things.
That's
beautiful.
unreal.
Are you involved with any charities or organizations or anything like that, or want to promote anything like that?
We have a wonderful church that we're just starting to really ingrain ourselves in. And my wife really wants to get involved in not only our church, but additional things. She is a giver, and she wants to definitely be of service, in all way, shape, and form. So we're just starting to get acclimated here, and we're going to get involved in a lot more of that sort of thing as days go by.
That's wonderful.
That's great. Yeah. Well, we really, appreciate you coming on the podcast, and give a shout out to your website.
Everyone, please stop by teddyrichards.com. That's TEDDYRICHARDS, like Sam.com. com. And also please stop everyone and listen, click over to Think Radio. If you guys don't mind, I'll send a link to you.
Sure.
And if you can pass this along to your podcasters. Let me see if I can do this, if this will work or not.
Sure.
Let's see if this works.
I can't wait. I've heard of Think Radio. I just never knew what it was. Yeah, I'm like, that is, I know, I've heard that before.
And now you got it. I'm sending that into your chat there.
Oh, sure.
Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah.
Very nice.
All
That
right.
came through?
Yep.
Yeah, it did.
Good. Yeah. You know, again, it's a wonderful work in progress. We're very proud of where it stands today. There's some really cool stuff that I would like to tell you about that's happening or that will be happening on Think Radio, but I can't right now.
Oh,
Sure. You'll have to come back sometime.
I would love to. If you guys invite me back, I would love to be back. And
we will. Hey, you are an icon. You know.
when are these changes going to happen? When are you going to be able to talk about them?
I will be able to probably speak on. There's two like amazing things that are happening or that are about to happen. I would say, let's see, today is what, the 20, what is today's date? The 29th? Hang on.
26.
Yeah,
26. We're probably looking at about a month from now. Honestly, we're looking at about a month from now. But until then, I have to kind of wait for the green light go.
Oh, understandable.
Yeah. But no, these are two like real mind blowing, like really
nice.
Yeah.
Sure.
And the things that I think that you guys would also like to be involved in conjunction with what I'm going to tell you guys about in a month. So you're going to go, oh yeah, you're going to want to be a piece of this.
This is exciting. If you think it's mind blowing, it's got to be. Wow. You've seen everything.
Oh yeah.
And you're such a kind soul. It's just been such
really
a pleasure today.
Well, thank you both. You know, Mark and Brian, you are good folks as well. You know, it's a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Are we over an hour, Mark? Into it?
Yes. And for Mark 2.0, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, because then you can put a face to our guests and to Brian and I. We're under Mark 2.0. You can look for the moon logo, as Brian likes to call it. I love it. You know, it's a great original, you know, logo. I mean, we're on audio platforms also, but you really want to get the full experience by going to YouTube and subscribing.
Yes,
really
and thank you.
appreciate it,
You
Teddy.
are the biggest musician we've ever had. It's been a true honor, sir. Yes,
Thank
by
you.
Really
far.
has. Hey,
By far.
thanks
And
so
we
much,
look forward
Teddy.
to talking to you again.
Yes.
Likewise. Now, can you also do me a favor?
Sure.
I would like to also have what we're doing here today. I'd like to be able to have it on Think Radio for all listeners as well.
Sure.
So-
Beautiful. Love to. Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
we'll get it out to
no
you.
problem. We'll get it right over to you.
Excellent. Hey,
Bravo.
thanks so much,
Bravo,
Teddy
guys.
Richards. Appreciate
Well,
it.
everybody like and subscribe. And thank you, Teddy. It's been a real pleasure, sir.
It's been my pleasure, you
And
guys.
make
God
sure to
bless
listen
you.
to
God
Think
bless
Radio.
you.
Appreciate
Take care.
it.
Okay.
Thanks so much.